Okay, so we're on Facebook Live and also on Zoom Live. We're live streaming. Uh, it's good to be live, and it's also good to be alive. So introducing Martin Pea, the back end guy. He helps put together the PowerPoints, make sure we have electricity and all that to run our whole webinar series. So welcome everybody. That's listening or viewing our channel. We're the National Building Expert. This is part of the Ask the Building Expert series. And why do we do this? Well, we actually do this to help building owners, condo associations, property managers, homeowners, real estate developers, and whoever is interested in the topics. If you can see the image on the left, that's me in San Francisco checking out the Millennium Tower, which is actually leaning about 3 inches a year. So that's not too good. It's trying to get the fix right now, and I'll tell you more about that in the upcoming webinar. But let's get right into it. The webinar is actually presented by Construction Management Inspection, which is a construction management and inspection company. And we do all kinds of things from concrete spalling, plumbing, electrical, roofing, painting, almost whatever's in a building we can help as the construction manager and building consultant. But our topic today is electrical systems, the shocking truth. But before I get into that, I like these webinars because it's easy. You don't have to, as a participant or somebody viewing, you don't have to show your COVID vaccination card status or a negative COVID test or any of that stuff. And we're broadcasting this live over Zoom. We started at 9 a.m. Hawaii Standard Time. That's better than 9 a.m. Hawaiian time. If it was Hawaiian time, we probably wouldn't have been started yet. But anyway, the other thing is with respect to the electrical code is the same code throughout the entire United States. So if you're living in areas that aren't from Hawaii, such as any of the other 49 states and the territories, the electrical code applies. If you're from a foreign country, the National Electrical Code does not apply, although there's a similar code in your neck of the woods, whatever country you're in. So the National Electrical Code is actually published by NFPA, which is the National Fire Protection Association. So why do the two go hand in hand? Well, because a lot of times electrical problems start fires. So that's partly the reason why. But let's get right into it. So electrical systems explain, so whether you live in a house or a building, and the building could be a townhouse or a high-rise condo building or apartment building, or it could be you work in a building, office building or shopping center or industrial complex or whatever. There's always this same kind of format where you have electricity coming in from the street. And when I say the street, and I'm talking about in Hawaii or in Honolulu, the street is the public utility, which is Hawaiian Electric in this case. So Hawaiian Electric, when you see all these telephone poles, or if there's no poles, they're underground wiring. So let's talk about a regular telephone pole situation. It's called a telephone pole, but it has electrical wires, telephone wires, cable wiring, fiber networks and all that. So it should be called a utility pole, not a telephone pole, but that's kind of like the old school way of talking. So what happens is you got large number of electricity coming off the utility pole and going into a transformer. And then from the transformer, it'll go into your distribution panel. And from there, there's branches off into separate sub panels for each section of the building or the house. Okay, so this is in the simplistic form of explanation that I'm telling you guys. So basically, a transformer is designed to either step up or step down your voltage. So if you have super high voltage, plenty power coming off the utility line, the utility pole at the street, the transformer will reduce that into a more palatable electricity format so that when it enters the building, you don't have too much power. Likewise, if there's not enough, a transformer can increase it a little bit. And the distribution panel explanation is it actually divides the electrical power feed into subsidiary circuits that are going throughout the building that you live or work in. So this is very simple explanation. I know there's super complicated explanations, but trying to make this very simple. And then, from your feed, from your circuit breaker box, your sub panel, there's separate breakers to go to one little office space or office cubicle or one room to your house. Okay, so basically it's power coming from the utility company going to the transformer and then going into your home or your office, okay, or your condo unit. Now, in a case of a subdivision, the transformer, each house doesn't have a separate transformer. Likewise, townhouses or large condo buildings, large office buildings, it has its own transformer, but not every house has its own transformer. Okay, so hopefully that cleared. Now, I like to use the term set it and forget it. And that's because when it comes to electrical systems, most people, you turn the switch on and you get light, or you plug something in and your rice cooker's working and all that. So basically you forget about what's inside your walls, your floor, ceiling to make things happen, to make the electrical work for you. Like your computer, it's plugged in and you're getting power, right? So you kind of forget about it. And most people don't stop to think, well, how long is this wiring going to last? How long is my outlet going to last? How long is my circuit breaker going to last? I guess it must last forever because it's still working. Okay, so the fallacy to this is when it comes to electrical, it's not set it and forget it. Okay, and I'll tell you why. You want to know why? What is the life expectancy of electrical components? Well, when you see cobwebs on your circuit breaker box or your transformer, that's not a good sign. So most people aren't aware of this information, and I'll just go over the key components here. Your transformer, okay, expected useful life is 25 to 30 years. Now listen to this, circuit breakers are 15 to 20 years. So if you live in a condo building or you're in an office building that's older than 15 to 20 years, your circuit breakers are beyond the expected useful life. Okay, and here's something else. Let's go down to UPS. That's UPS is not like the guys that are in those brown trucks that deliver packages when you order from Amazon. In this case, it means uninterruptible power supply. Uh, it provides backup in case there's a drop in current or there's no power at all. Okay, that's what that means. So if you have one and it's over 10 years old, you should replace it. Now, cable wiring, the wiring from your circuit breaker to your outlets and light switches and all that, the expected useful life is 30 to 40 years. So if you live in a house that's 60 years old and you never replaced the wiring or circuit breakers, or in some cases, instead of circuit breakers, it's fuses. So you have a fuse box. Okay, so maybe it's time to take a look at that. Okay, so you ask yourself the question: if my house is 60 years old and I've never replaced any wiring or circuit breakers, is that something that is consistent with the schedule that I'm giving to you? No, it's not, because the expected life of a circuit breaker is 20 years, and here you are living in a 60-year-old house using the same breakers. Okay, now this is the average rule of thumb. It's not to say that there's houses or buildings that are 60 years old and using the same original breakers and nothing's wrong with it. It's still working, but there could be something wrong. Old age, things break over time, things get weathered, things come loose. There's components in the circuit breaker, there's springs and things that get worn over time. And maybe if you have a short circuit, the breaker is not going to trip because of old age. Okay, so this is the big heads up. It's not business as usual anymore. If you live in a house or live in a condo or in a condo building or office building, and it's beyond the 20-year, 30-year, 40-year mark, ask questions. Okay, and better yet, have an electrical contractor come in and check out these things just to be safe. Don't wait until there's a short circuit or a fire before you call somebody. And that's the norm. Okay, it's human nature. Like for plumbing, you don't call a plumber and have them come in and, oh, can you just inspect my plumbing things to make sure there's no leaks now, but I just want you to make sure. No, nobody does that. Okay, you call the plumber when your toilet is clogged or your sink's clogged or something's overflowing or backing up. That's when you call. Okay, when it comes to electrical, if there's a short circuit, you're already late in calling. You should have called somebody earlier to do the inspections. Okay, now, why am I telling you this? It's because for the most part, in the construction industry and the property management industry, hardly anybody does inspections. If your building is 30 years old, 40 years old or older, ask the question to your board if you live in a condo. Okay, have you guys ever had anybody inspect our electrical system? And the answer is probably going to be no. And I'm talking about not only condo buildings, I'm talking about office buildings, hotels, shopping centers, and all that. It's not like if something happens, then you fix it. You want to be more proactive instead of reactive. Okay, so that's basically what the point I'm trying to drive home is: be proactive and not reactive. Sometimes if you're reactive, it's too late and you can't do anything more about it. So let's move on. So what do you do? Okay, so the answer is you do periodic inspections and testing, and that's required. I'm saying it's required. The electrical code says you have to keep your electrical components in proper working condition. Well, how do you do that? How do you know it's proper working condition? The only way to know that is to have somebody that's knowledgeable do an inspection and testing. And in some cases, an inspection is not the end all. You have to also test. So I combine an inspection with testing. Inspection is basically looking at looking at things and not using gauges and tools and things like that. And testing is using whatever tools and equipment the electrical contractor or inspector uses to check out things. Okay, so it's kind of specialized, and I don't expect every condo owner to be inspecting their own electrical. That's why you defer to professionals that are certified and licensed to do this kind of work. Okay, so that's the answer. Have inspections done, and you might say, well, how often do I need to have it done? Well, if your building never had it done before and it's 35, 40 years old or older, now's the time. It's kind of embarrassing when I go and inspect buildings that are 60 years old or older, and I ask the question, when was the last time you guys had your electrical inspected? Oh yeah, we had a guy come in and fix some outlets and light switches that didn't work. I said, no, that's not the question. The question is, did you have a total building inspection? Like a company comes in, looks at your distribution panel boxes and all that. No, I don't think we ever had one done. Okay, well, now's the time. And then a lot of times they go and get estimates and they go, well, we don't want to spend $10,000, $12,000 for an inspection. I don't think we need one because nothing's wrong. Well, you don't know. How do you know if anything's wrong? Because you're not the professional in that field, right? So now, let me tell you about problem brands and common defects. Throughout the historical electrical from probably the 70s, 80s and all, it's been discovered that certain brands of circuit breakers have a tendency to fail more often. And it didn't get to the point of a recall per se, because I think it was political, but I can tell you now, and if you talk to qualified electricians and also home inspectors or other experts in the industry, they'll tell you that these brands are common for failure. Federal Pacific Electric Stab-Lock brand, which is in the bigger picture, that's been known to fail when there's a short circuit. Sometimes the breakers don't trip. And what happens when the breakers don't trip? Now that's a potential fire hazard. Okay. The reason for a circuit breaker is to cut the circuit, to break the circuit so that there's no electricity anymore going to that specific device, be it an outlet or a light switch or anything like that. So historically, when there's an overload or short circuit, that breaker would trip. And that's the fail-safe mechanism. Okay. Now, what happens if the breaker doesn't trip because it's defective? Well, that's very dangerous. So remember the brand name Federal Pacific Electric Stab-Lock, and its Stab-Lock is STAB-LOK, widely known in the industry for failure. And there's also another brand called Zinsco, ZINSCO, and that's prone to failure also. So if your house, your unit, your building has these brands, then I would highly recommend an inspection first, and then normally the electrician will say, you know what, this is old already, you know, you should replace it. And then you replace it with a different brand. Okay, so that's a very important message, because a lot of houses and condos that I inspect, older ones, have these brands, and a lot of times the condo board already knows that they need to replace it, and they have it scheduled or planned. So, you know, that's a good thing. But if you're not aware of it, you're not going to know. So if you're buying a place and a condo unit and it has these brands, the home inspector should let you know. If he doesn't, then ask him, hey, I heard from this building expert that this brand isn't that good. Did you check it out? And can you tell me more about it? And, you know, see what he or she says. Now, there's other problems and defects with electrical wiring, and we're going to talk about that next. And it's aluminum wiring, which was commonly used in the 70s. At the time, prior to that, copper wiring was prevalent. Copper wiring was used throughout a lot of homes and buildings and all that. But then when the war came out, there was a shortage of copper. So they, because of the shortage, then they switched to aluminum. Now, aluminum wiring, here's the downsides of aluminum wiring. And there, if you're in Hawaii, aluminum wiring has been used in the 70s in subdivisions and townhouses and condo buildings in Mililani, Hawaii Kai, and other areas. But these are the areas that I've inspected and seen. Aluminum wiring, the wiring gauge is supposed to be a little thicker than copper, because aluminum wiring heats up faster. But the problem is it corrodes too fast. And when it corrodes, it leaves a gap. And then if there's a gap in the wire, to a device, then that's the electricity got to get somewhere. And then that's what causes arcing. Okay. So if you look at the bigger image and you see these brown copper looking wires, and then you look to the right of all the screws and you look below that and you see the silvery wire, this is a combination of aluminum and copper. And what happens in a panel like this is a bar with the screws. You cannot have copper and aluminum together, because then what happens is it's dissimilar metals and it starts prematurely corroding. Okay, so this is a no-no. If you look at the outlet on the left, this was caused by arcing, and the aluminum wiring was getting heated up and started melting the outlet. Now this is indicative of fire waiting to happen if it didn't get caught. So aluminum wiring is still in existence today, but for branch wiring, and branch wiring, I'm talking about lower amperage circuits such as 15 and 20 amp circuits. I don't recommend using that. But if you have it in your house or in your building, the recommendation is have an electrician come that's certified in aluminum wiring, and have them check every single connection. Every time the wire is cut and connected to an outlet or a light fixture, any kind of device, that's where they have to check. So it's kind of a tedious check, but it's very important, because there's actually fires that started because of aluminum wiring. And you can go online and check, do a internet search, type in aluminum wiring fires or something like that, and then see what comes up. Well, you'd be surprised at the amount of information that is on the internet. Okay, so let's move on. So the advice from the building expert. Well, what is the advice? I'm saying that if you have a building, you live in a building that's 40 years old, you should have your electrical inspection completed. Okay, so that's already red flag the age. Okay, and your electrical inspection is, I'm not talking about only your electrical components in your house, in your condo unit. I'm talking about your entire building. So if you live in a high-rise building, I'm talking about all your common area electrical. So an apartment building, a condo building, a shopping center, office building, have the electrical components checked. This is all common area electrical, not electrical going into individual office spaces or retail shops if it's a shopping center or industrial. But sometimes if, let's say a shopping center is owned by one shopping center owner, the electrical going into each store space is actually normally the tenant's responsibility. Okay, so similarly, on a condo building, once the electrical goes from the common area to your single condo unit, the condo electrical becomes the condo unit's responsibility. So you may need both. If you're living in a condo building that's 6 years old, you should have somebody inspect your unit, your particular unit, and make sure that the board hires an electrical contractor to inspect all the common areas. That way you have it, covered. So that's a major component. Is electrical important? Yes. Do people forget about it? Yes, they do. It's like they turn on the switches and everything works. So basically, in a nutshell, that's electrical, the topic of electrical. And when I say the shocking truth, part of the shock is that people aren't aware that these components only last 30 to 40 years, maybe even 20 years. Okay, so it may not be a defect in the material in the circuit breaker. It may be it's just because it's old age. It could not, nothing lasts forever. So your wiring around your house or in your building is not forever. Sometimes you need to replace it. So basically, that's the simplest format on electrical. And let's see what else we have. Okay, so regarding our Ask the Expert webinar series, what you've missed, we've given, I think last year I gave like over 58 webinars, something like that. I kind of lost count. But pertaining to Ask the Building Expert topics, we talked about roofing, plumbing, cast iron piping, concrete spalling, the Florida building collapse, hurricane ties, painting. We have probably at least 11, 22, at least 22 webinars that we've given already. And sorry you missed out, but the good thing is we have all the videos recorded online, so you can watch the webinars on demand anytime you want. And there's takeaway handouts, which we offer you the PowerPoint. So you can download the PowerPoint and review it at your leisure. You can watch the webinars anytime you want to. This is not like a Netflix where you have to pay to play it. All of our webinars are free, available, because we want to help educate you, and we want good safety and health in our buildings. So if you go to our website, askbuildingexpert.now.site, you can take a look at and choose any webinar that you want to watch. Now, you might ask, well, what do you have coming up for future webinars? Well, future webinars, next month we have waterproofing, failure prevention, and I'll be talking about the differences in waterproofing versus paint and the applications and all that. Then we have construction warranties, redefined print, developer transition, broken promises. If you're buying or you have bought, or let's say you're a realtor, property manager, you manage a fairly new condo, or you're a realtor selling a condo, like a new condo, like in Kaka'ako and so forth, you might be interested in the developer transition. What that means is the transition, the developer turns over the building and the property over to the Association of Apartment Owners. Okay, and it's key to be cognizant of all the requirements and what you need for that. I've inspected condo projects, new condo projects on different neighbor islands. Also, I'm flying to Kauai next week to do next month to do an inspection of a new condo that was recently transitioned over. And then we got top 10 OSHA violations. That's going to be interesting. Building envelope, it's a wrap. What is a building envelope? Imagine you're sending a letter and you're putting the letter in an envelope. So the envelope is the outside exterior of a building. And then the letter is all your condo units. So that's kind of an analogy. Then there's lot grade drainage, the correct flow. There's plumbing, let it flow. I've done a webinar on plumbing, cast iron drain piping, but this plumbing webinar is about supply piping, which is you turn your faucet on and water comes out. So that's the plumbing I'm talking about, your supply. I'm going into different types of components of plumbing. And do you know what the materials are? There's copper, there's galvanized, and there's also plastic piping, which is main ones. And then I'm talking about the Millennium Story, the sinking building in San Fran, which I just inspected last month. Was there in the cold weather, rainy weather, checking out the building. And then Homeowner Association Design Review, the AOAO protocol. And this is important because a lot of condos that I work with don't have a protocol, or they don't know how to enforce it. And I'll be talking about design guidelines with respect to flooring, air conditioning, window split system, kitchen and bath remodeling, structural modifications, and that kind of thing, lanai enclosures, and good stuff. And then the next one is after a flood, do this, do that. So many years ago, I helped the FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Association, draft guidelines for what to do when your house gets flooded. So I'll be talking about that because I know there's a lot of flooding that's going to happen in the future because of these bad storms, hurricanes, and typhoons and storms like that that cause a lot of flooding, heavy rains, and things like that. So as you can see, we're trying to help the masses here get to where they need to be. And that's basically the rundown on what's happening. I'm actually doing research on that Red Hill water issue, and I guess within the next 30 days I'll be coming out with something. Might not be a webinar, might be something else, but we'll see. So once again, I thank you guys for joining in, and go to the Q&A section. If you have any questions or comments, if you're on Zoom, post your questions or comments to the chat or Q&A section. If you're on Facebook, just make a post. And if you want to email us later, lanceluke@hawaiibuildingexpert.com. Our phone number is 808-422-2132. Our website, once again, is askbuildingexpert.now.site. And if you're located outside of Hawaii, we welcome you to email or give us a call. If you're on Facebook Live or on Zoom and you're from a foreign country, you can still ask questions and comments, because the general building protocol and construction is the same regardless of what country you're in. It's only the specific things that change, or the codes may be a little bit different. For the most part, a building is a building. A roof is the same components. In fact, there's a lot of building components that we use in the United States that actually come from foreign countries. So believe it or not. So at this time, I'd like to open it up to any questions anybody has. And Martin, you're keeping track because I'm not looking at the screen, but I'm gonna come off the share screen, and then we'll be just on the Zoom platform, and then I can take whatever questions come up. So let me stop the share here and okay, we're good. So Martin, are you around?
I'm here. You can hear me all right, Lance?
Yeah, sounds
All
good.
right. Yeah, good job today. Boy, this is an important topic because I know our house is over 40 years old, and we just had a lot of renovations and the inspection. So what you're saying is so true, yeah, for homeowners or condo owners or whatever, yeah. But
Right.
anyway, we get some questions. We get some questions here from our audience. So let me run through them. First one here is for the inspection and testing process, what kind of company would you recommend?
First of all, I want to make sure that you're using a licensed electrical contractor. Okay, and there's several licenses for electrical. So you don't want a handyman guy coming or somebody like that. You want somebody that has a certification or at least a state licensing, and they can prove to you that they took the courses and training that were required to get the license. So this is on, a single house or a single condo unit. If you're a board member, property manager, and you want an inspection of your entire building, that's necessarily not going to be electrical contractor that you're going to find. In the old days, I used to say in the yellow pages, but on an internet search. Okay, you want to make sure that these companies are going to be able to inspect the entire building, and there's only a handful of companies that can do that. And right now, most or all are union contractors, and they're all busy building new stuff. So, good luck trying to get them right away. You might want to schedule somebody to come down and look at the building and give you a proposal. And it's not going to be cheap. The last ones that I saw were 10, 12,000. I've seen some for $25,000. I think I saw one inspection for a hotel that was like over $25,000. So you're going to be shocked when you get the proposal and see the cost. And this is only for the inspection. It's not to do any work fixing anything. Okay, it's only to come look at the components, your distribution panels, and your common area electrical, and say, here's our inspection report. The next step is you take the inspection report, and then you want to know all these things that are deficient. What is the cost to fix it? Okay, so it's a two-step process. But in answer to the question is, you gotta make sure the company is qualified to inspect entire electrical of entire buildings, and not just like one unit looking at the one or two circuit breaker boxes. Okay, so there's a difference. And if you want to, one company that I use is American Electric, and there's other companies that are too busy right now to even talk to you or schedule. But if you're interested, reach out and I can tell you more about it. So hopefully that's the answer to that question.
Good answer, Lance. Good answer. Okay, the next question that came up here is on the aluminum wiring topic. Can you provide additional references so we can get more information?
Okay, so in addition to information that I gave you, or if you need more, contact me. There's a couple of good sources. One of them is the Consumer Product Safety Commission. And if you go to their website, I think it's cpsc.gov or something like that. But if you do your own search and you type in on their website aluminum wiring, they actually have brochures on aluminum wiring and things like that. Other sources are, if you just do a search on aluminum wiring defects, okay, or aluminum wiring hazards, or some keywords like that, you'd be surprised at how much stuff there is on the internet. I mean, I'm even surprised, and people are posting new stuff to it. So, like, because we're doing this webinar, there's nothing like the topic of a webinar. So after we're done, we're going to put this on the internet too, so people can, learn and hopefully gain some information. If we can save somebody from getting shocked, or a building catching on fire or whatever from, electrical problem, then this webinar was all worth it. I know it costs money, but that's just the right thing to do. So if you need further information, just reach out and we'll be happy to help you.
Thank you, Lance. Next question here was, if a circuit breaker only lasts 20 years, how come most people do not replace them?
Well, the answer is that people don't know that they need to replace it, or they don't know that it only lasts 20 years. Okay. They may be on borrowed time. I've seen circuit breakers that are 50 years old, 60, 70 years old. I've seen one 80 years old that was still working. So, of course, the 70, 80 years old probably weren't circuit breakers. They were fuse boxes, but that's probably one of the reasons why people don't replace it, because for one, they don't know it only lasts 20 years. And then the other issue is it's still working. So they have no reason to doubt that there's a problem or suspect that there's a problem, right? So that's basically the main reason. But now that, you're learning this information, you may want to ask yourself, well, my breaker box is like 40 years old. I think I should have somebody check it. And you bring an electrician to check it. And if he goes, hey, everything looks good, looks clean, there's no problem. There was one breaker that was loose and I tightened it up, and you're good to go. Okay, so in that case, that's money well spent, because it's peace of mind. Now, would you rather have that, or you rather have, well, I'm not going to get anybody, and if it doesn't work one day, then that's when I'll call somebody. That's not really being proactive, because what happens if there's a short circuit or there's a fire and it's too late? Okay, so you don't want to be put in that kind of position, because you have the opportunity and the knowledge to know that this is something that you should attend to. It's like your to-do list. You have a car, you drive your car around town, and if you just put gas and you continue driving and you don't check the oil, you don't check the tires or your brakes, something's bound to happen, right? So you don't want that. And that's why the government requires safety checks, because they already know people are going to be negligent or they're going to forget. It's not that they do it on purpose. They might go, well, I thought I put oil in my car, 3 months ago, and then find out that it was 2 years ago that happened, right? So that's just human nature, and that's why there's requirements. Now, on the same topic, remember that Florida building collapse that happened near Miami? Okay, so there was a mandatory 40-year inspection for electrical. Okay, so I gave interviews to news media, and I told them that if a circuit breaker box only lasts 20 years, why is the mandatory inspection 40 years? You guys are like way too late. You should have the mandatory electrical inspection at the 20-year mark, or 25 or 30-year mark, instead of waiting 40 years. 40 years is ridiculous. You might as well say, you know what, after the building's built, just inspect it 50 years later then, or 100 years later. That's, not gonna help. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox about that and see what other questions we have.
Well, thanks, Lance. Your soapbox is good. People need to be aware of these kind of things. Yeah. So thank you. See, the last question that's come in so far is here. I thought Hawaiian Electric was responsible for the electricity to our building. Our building had a power outage and HECO came out and told us that the building owner was responsible. Where is the cutoff point?
Okay, well, that's a very good question. I've had that question posed to me several times, and even for single-family homes and condominium and office buildings. Okay, so remember the image that I put up from the utility pole from the street into the building. Okay, there's a transformer, and sometimes the transformer is owned by the building and sometimes it's owned by Hawaiian Electric. Okay, if it's owned by Hawaiian Electric, then you continue your wiring to your building. Now there's electric meters. Hawaiian Electric, for the most part, is responsible for all the electrical wiring and everything that goes to the electric meter. Okay, and the electric meter belongs to Hawaiian Electric. Okay, it doesn't belong to the homeowner. Now, from the meter going to the main panel, circuit breaker panel, okay, belongs to the building owner. Okay, so Hawaiian Electric owns all the electricity or all the components up to and including the electric meter. When the wire goes from the electric meter to wherever else, and normally it goes to the main circuit breaker, and then from that circuit breaker it goes to a distribution panel or sub panel or circuit breaker inside your house or your condo unit. Okay, once it leaves the meter, everything past the meter is the building owner or homeowners. Okay, so sometimes Hawaiian Electric will help, but then they'll tell you, hey, this is we're not responsible for all the electrical in your whole building. Okay, we sell you as a utility company the electricity, but you're responsible to maintain the components that the electricity runs through. So for instance, your main panel. So let me get more simple. Let's say you have a 100-amp meter right after your 100-amp circuit breaker right after your electric meter. Okay, that circuit breaker belongs to you, the homeowner, not Hawaiian Electric. So if there's a failure, you're responsible. And any kind of devices or wiring after that meter, after the meter and the circuit breaker main is the responsibility of the homeowner. So your circuit breaker box inside your unit, that's not Hawaiian Electric, that's your own. So if it fails, then guess what? You're responsible for fixing it and maintaining it. So that's the demarcation. Think of it as the electric meter as the demarcation point or the dividing line to see who's responsible, who's not. So electrical coming in from the street, utility going all the way to your meter, that's Hawaiian Electric. Anything after that is a homeowner. And this pertains to every island. And it's not Hawaiian Electric. It might be a different name. I know on Maui, Big Island, Lanai, it's a different name. And then in the United States, it's basically the same thing. Your utility company is responsible for electricity all the way to the electric meter. And then after that, it's the homeowner's responsibility. Only in rare cases, it's different from that. So hopefully that answers the question. Do we have any other questions on Zoom or Facebook comments?
No others have come in, but I had one that I just thought of, and maybe you can address. this has to do with, with all the technology and, me, I'm the tech guy. We're bringing in all kinds of electronic equipment and all these new things to the home and whatever building. Is there an impact with adding all these kind of electrical equipment and tech things that can have an effect on the electrical system? And along the lines of what you've been sharing about the inspection and the power and all that kind of stuff, yeah?
Yeah, I've had situations in older houses and condos where the main is a lower amperage, say 50, 70 amps. It's less than 100, and they start using their hair dryer that's really powerful, or they add in a window AC unit, and then when they plug in their hair dryer, the lights start dimming. Or when they use their disposal, the lights start dimming too. Now, that's a red flag, because initially, if the house is 70 years old, it never had a garbage disposal, right? Also, they never had hair dryers during those days, and some hair dryers are really powerful. There's also some situations where they plug in their rice cooker and turn it on, and they go to work, they come home, and guess what? The outlet didn't work. There was some kind of short, so they didn't have cooked rice. Okay, so those are the situations where you have to be careful. In fact, they're coming up with newer and newer models of different things, air fryers and ovens and things like that, that actually take more power. So if you don't have enough outlets, a no-no is you don't put a power strip. And let's say you only have 4 outlets, but you need more power. So a lot of houses, they just plug a power strip in, and voila, now you have 6 more outlets. But guess what? You're not adding more power to the panel box. You're just drawing more power from those 2 outlets. So it doesn't resolve the problem. In fact, I got stories from fire departments where people had elaborate Christmas trees, and they plugged in all these lights and all that, and they had a power strip, and the Christmas tree caught on fire, and they wonder why, because they had enough outlets in the power strip. But that's not why. You're not adding more power. You're just using more power with the existing outlets that they had. So got to be really careful. So if you're in doubt, and if there's lights dimming, or your circuit breaker's always tripping, already that's a red flag to you that, oh, I better call somebody to check it out. And most times you got too much power on that one circuit. I've seen houses where they tapped in without adding more power. They added on split system air conditioners, a swimming pool, and they were wondering why there was a buzzing sound in their 100 amp main. And then, when I went to inspect, I said, hey, this thing is overheating already. It's maxed out. Instead of a 100 amp breaker, you need a 200. So if in doubt, when it comes to electrical, have it inspected and have a professional check it. If you want a second opinion, ask a firefighter, ask a fireman about electrical problems they see in the field, and they can tell you. Okay, and there's like I said, a lot of information on the internet that you can search, and what I'm telling you is based on my own experience and not something that you read. So if you're concerned about fake news or information that's not necessarily true, you can use me as a source, because when we give these webinars, a lot of the information is coming from my own experience and expertise. So, and I've been in the industry for 42 years now, but I've built and maintained houses. I started when I was like 10 or 12 years old. So, and we did everything: plumbing, electrical, roofing, painting, whatever. So we even handled hazardous materials. So if I start glowing in the dark when I give a webinar at night, probably that's the reason why. But anyway, we got any other comments? Otherwise, we can sign off for the day.
Well, that's all we get, but thank you for that answer. I think it would seem like most of the, in today's homes, you really got to have a lot more power than like you said, when we got our homes 50 years ago or whatever it was. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you for that.
Sure. And then on behalf of Martin and I and Ask the Building Expert webinar series, we appreciate all you guys for attending. Thank you. We know there's a whole bunch of people on Facebook. Please click the like button or add a comment. Then that we know how many more people are on, because a lot of people that watch, we don't know they're watching because we don't have any gauge. But if you click the like, then we kind of know. So please do that. Also, please sign up or attend the next webinar series. And until then, we're signing off, and keep safe and keep your building safe. Aloha.